Number 10. Ancient stainless steel. Let's start with a glitch in the matrix, a physical object that is currently breaking the laws of thermodynamics. If you leave a piece of iron outside, it rusts. It dies. That is the rule. Entropy comes for everything. But in the middle of a crowded temple complex in India, there is a generic-looking pillar that has been giving the middle finger to Mother Nature for 1,600 years. It stands in the open air, yet it refuses to die. It is a technological anomaly that makes modern engineering look embarrassing. This is the Iron Pillar of Delhi. It was forged around 400 AD. Since then, it has been blasted by monsoon rains, baked by 115-degree heat, and choked by the corrosive smog of a modern megacity. By every metric of material science, it should be a pile of orange dust. But it isn't. It is 98% pure wrought iron, yet it remains pristine. In the 1960s, baffled scientists finally figured out why. The pillar is coated in a passive protective film called misawhite. This film forms because the iron has an insanely high phosphorus content. Why? Because the ancient smiths didn't use limestone to remove impurities like we do today. They used charcoal, and in doing so, they accidentally trapped the phosphorus inside the metal. Here is the humbling part. We spend billions on anti-corrosive sprays and galvanized alloys, and our bridges still rust. The Gupta Empire achieved better results by accident. It forces you to wonder if a civilization 16 centuries ago could accidentally build an eternal metal. What other primitive technologies have we lost that were actually superior to our own? Number 9. Archimedes' Principle. Picture a man stepping into a bathtub in the ancient city of Syracuse. He's stressed, terrified, and mentally exhausted. The local king, Hiero II, has given him an impossible task. Determine if a golden crown is pure gold or if the goldsmith swindled the king by mixing in cheap silver. The catch: the mathematician cannot scratch, melt, or damage the holy object in any way. Failure means the king's wrath. Success seems impossible. He sinks into the warm water, watching the level rise against the side of the tub, his mind drifting until... click. The man was Archimedes, and the moment he watched the water spill over the rim, he realized a fundamental law of physics. He understood that a body immersed in a fluid experiences a buoyant force equal to the weight of the fluid it displaces. Since gold is denser than silver, a crown of pure gold would occupy less volume than a mixed crown of the same weight, and thus displace less water. This insight, known as Archimedes' Principle, didn't just solve the king's problem. It laid the groundwork for hydrostatics and naval engineering. We use this accidental bath-time discovery to design steel aircraft carriers that float and submarines that dive. It's the physics that keeps global trade afloat, discovered not in a library, but in a moment of relaxation. Legend says he ran naked through the streets shouting Eureka immediately after. While the naked sprint might be an embellishment, the principle is ironclad. It suggests that the human brain doesn't solve complex problems when it's grinding away at a desk, but when it finally lets go. Maybe the greatest laboratory on Earth isn't at MIT. Maybe it's just a hot bath. Number 8. Asphalt roads. For thousands of years, the earth bled. In various spots across the Middle East, a thick, foul-smelling black sludge would bubble up from the ground, ruining crops and trapping unsuspecting animals. To the early nomadic tribes, this substance was a curse from the underworld, a sticky, impossible-to-clean mess that signaled bad land. It was waste. It was garbage. But then, an engineer in a rapidly growing city looked at this bubbling nuisance and realized that its most annoying property, its stickiness, was actually the key to building an empire. The Babylonians were the first to truly harness the power of asphalt, or bitumen. Around 600 BCE, under King Nebuchadnezzar II, Babylon didn't just use this black goo for waterproofing boats, they used it to pave the streets. The famous processional way was paved with limestone and brick, bound together with a mortar of bitumen. While the Romans are credited with road building, the Babylonians were chemically welding their infrastructure together centuries earlier. This accidental utilization of a natural petroleum seep created surfaces that could withstand the heavy traffic of chariots, trade caravans, and armies. They turned a geologic defect into the literal foundation of urbanization. Today, 94% of the paved roads in the United States are surfaced with asphalt. We are driving on the exact same material that ancient farmers cursed for ruining their sandals. It makes you wonder, what waste product are we throwing away today that will be the building block of the 31st century? Number 7. Brandy. In the 16th century, a Dutch ship captain stares at his manifest in frustration. Wine is heavy, it is mostly water, and shipping water across the ocean is expensive. It takes up massive amounts of cargo space and often spoils into vinegar before it reaches the port. The merchants hatch a clever, penny-pinching plan. They will heat the wine to evaporate the water, creating a concentrate that takes up less space. The idea is simply to add water back to the concentrate once they arrive at the destination. It was supposed to be a logistical hack, nothing more. The merchants called this concentrate brandywine, meaning burnt wine. However, when the shipment arrived, a strange thing happened. The concentrate had been sitting in wooden casks during the voyage, absorbing flavors from the oak. When people tasted the undiluted spirit, they realized it wasn't just a transport method, it was magnificent. The distillation process had intensified the alcohol and the flavor profile, creating something far superior to the original wine. They had accidentally invented brandy. This mistake revolutionized the world alcohol trade, leading to the creation of cognac, armagnac, and the entire industry of aged spirits. The water was never added back. The world's most sophisticated sipping drink wasn't created by a master sommelier trying to please the palate. It was created by a frugal shipping manager trying to save money on freight taxes. It's a sobering reminder. Sometimes the pursuit of profit accidentally yields the height of luxury. Number 6. Silk. The year is roughly 2700 BCE. Empress Lezu, the wife of the Yellow Emperor, sits in a garden in China, enjoying a moment of tranquility under the shade of a mulberry tree. She holds a cup of steaming hot tea. Suddenly, a small hard object plummets from the branches above and splashes directly into her cup. It's a cocoon, a bug casing. Disgusted, she tries to fish the boiled insect out of her beverage. But instead of a soggy lump, she pulls on a loose thread, and the object begins to unravel, and unravel, and unravel. What Lezu pulled from that cup was a continuous filament of silk. The heat of the tea had dissolved the sericin, the sticky protein holding the cocoon together, allowing the single thread to unwind. A single silkworm cocoon can yield a thread up to 900 meters long. Realizing the potential of this strong, shimmering fiber, the Chinese developed sericulture. For thousands of years, the method of silk production was the world's most guarded secret. Revealing it was punishable by death. This accidental tea-time discovery created the Silk Road, a trade network that connected East and West, reshaped global economies, and facilitated the exchange of culture, religion, and disease across continents. Of course, this is partly legend, but the biological mechanism is fact. The most luxurious fabric in human history, synonymous with royalty and wealth, is literally just the dried saliva of a blind, flightless moth larva. We drape ourselves in bug spit and call it fashion. Number 5. Tyrian purple. According to ancient Mediterranean legend, the demigod Hercules was walking along a beach in Phoenicia, trying to impress a nymph named Tyro. His dog, running ahead, found a sea snail on the rocks and crunched down on it. When the dog returned, its muzzle was stained a deep, rich, horrifying crimson purple. The nymph, entranced by the color, told Hercules he would only accept his advances if he made her a garment of that exact shade. The hero, or rather his curious dog, had just stumbled upon the most expensive substance of the ancient world. The substance was Tyrian purple, derived from the glandular secretions of the predatory murex snail. Following this accidental discovery, the city of Tyre became the center of the dye trade. The process was brutal and industrial. It took approximately 12,000 decomposing snails to produce just 1.4 grams of pure dye, enough to trim a single garment. The dye was color-fast, meaning it didn't fade in the sun. It actually became brighter. It was so labor-intensive and rare that it became worth more than its weight in gold. Roman laws eventually forbade anyone but the emperor from wearing it. The color purple became the universal symbol of power, all because a dog bit the wrong seashell. The twist? The production process smelled so agonizingly like rotting flesh that the dye factories had to be located miles downwind of the city. The smell of supreme power was literally the smell of death. It makes you wonder, what is the true cost of the status symbols we worship today? Number 4. Glass. The Roman historian Pliny the Elder tells the story of Phoenician merchants landing on the banks of the Belus River. Exhausted and hungry, they prepare to cook a meal, but the beach is sandy and lacks large stones to prop up their cooking pots. Improvising, the merchants return to their ship and grab blocks of natron, a natural soda ash they're transporting, to use as makeshift pot stands. They build a roaring fire. As the heat intensifies, the merchants notice something magical happening beneath the pots. The beach itself begins to melt. The natron, sodium carbonate, lowered the melting point of the silica sand. As the fire burned, the two substances fused, flowing as a clear liquid stream that hardened into glass. Before this moment, glass existed only as obsidian, volcanic glass, or as a glaze on ceramic beads. This accident unlocked the technology for windows, bottles, lenses, and eventually the fiber optic cables that transmit the internet you are using right now. While modern archaeologists argue that a campfire might not reach the necessary 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit to melt pure sand, the addition of soda ash acts as a flux, making Pliny's account chemically plausible. Skeptics argue the story is a myth because open fires rarely get that hot, but the chemistry of the flux is undeniable. Whether it happened exactly on that beach or in a potter's kiln, the result is the same. Our entire civilization is viewed through a material that is nothing more than melted sand. Number 3. Gunpowder. In the 9th century, China, a group of Taoist alchemists is at hard work. They are not trying to conquer the world, they are trying to leave it. Their goal is the elixir of life, a potion that will grant the emperor eternal immortality. They mix honey, arsenic, saltpeter, and sulfur, experimenting with different ratios in their cauldrons. They heat the mixture, expecting a divine transformation. Instead, they get a flash of light, a deafening boom, and a singed laboratory. They haven't found the cure for death, they have found the cause of it. They called it huayao, or fire medicine. The earliest written records of gunpowder warn alchemists strictly against mixing sulfur, railgar, and saltpeter because it would burn their hands and faces and even burn down the house. Initially used for treating skin diseases and fumigating insects, the mixture was quickly weaponized into flying fire arrows and eventually cannons. The irony is palpable. Men searching for a way to extend life indefinitely accidentally created the single most efficient tool for ending it, changing the nature of warfare from skill-based melee to chemical destruction. The alchemists thought they were manipulating the spiritual energy of the universe. In reality, they were just unlocking the chemical energy of the nitrate bond. It is the ultimate cosmic joke. The search for immortality gave us the gun. What are we researching today to save humanity that will eventually be used to destroy it? Number 2. Cheese. Thousands of years ago, a nomad prepares for a long journey across the desert. He needs nutrition, so he fills a pouch made from the stomach of a young calf with fresh milk. He ties it to his saddle and sets off. The sun beats down, heating the pouch. The horse gallops, churning the milk inside. Hours later, thirsty and exhausted, the nomad opens the pouch, expecting a drink. Instead, he finds a watery liquid and white, solid clumps. He tastes the clumps. They are savory. They're filling. And crucially, they don't make him sick. The pouch, made from an animal's stomach, contained natural rennet, an enzyme used to digest milk. The combination of the rennet, the bacterial cultures native to the pouch, the heat of the sun, and the agitation of the galloping horse created the perfect conditions for curdling. The milk had separated into curds, cheese, and whey. This discovery, dated back to at least 8,000 BCE, allowed humans to transport protein without refrigeration. Technically, cheese is just milk that has been ruined in a very specific, controlled way. We are the only species on Earth that looks at a spoiled bodily fluid of another animal and says, let's age that for 6 months and put it on a cracker. Number 1. Leavened bread. Go back 10,000 years. Humans have just started growing grain, but eating it is a chore. They crush the kernels into a rough powder, mix it with water to form a dense paste, and cook it on hot rocks. The result is a rock-hard, tooth-shattering slab. It keeps you alive, but it's miserable. One day, in Egypt, a distracted baker mixes his grain paste but forgets about it. He leaves it sitting out in the warm sun for hours, maybe days. Invisible spores from the air attack the dough. When he finally returns, the dough has swollen and smells sour. He bakes it anyway to hide his mistake. The air was full of wild yeast spores. When they landed on the wet grain, they began to feed on the sugars, releasing carbon dioxide bubbles in the process. This fermentation caused the dough to rise. When the baker put this spoiled dough into the oven, the heat killed the yeast, but the pockets of air remained, creating a light, fluffy, airy loaf, the world's first leavened bread. We didn't invent bread. We formed a symbiotic relationship with a fungus. We feed the yeast, and the yeast makes our food edible. The entire foundation of Western civilization rests on a batch of dough that someone was too lazy to clean up. But wait, I'm not letting you go without this one, because you're probably addicted to it right now. Extra credit. Coffee. According to legend, in the 9th century Ethiopia, a goat herd named Kaldi noticed something strange. His goats were acting insane. They were jumping, dancing, and bleating with an unnatural energy. He tracked them and found them eating bright red berries from a specific shrub. Curious, Kaldi tried the berries himself and felt a surge of alertness. He ran to a local monastery to share his discovery, but the monks, fearing this hyperactive devil fruit, threw the beans into the fire to destroy them. But as the beans burned, they didn't smell like brimstone. They smelled like heaven. The aroma of roasting coffee filled the room. The monks raked the roasted beans out of the fire, ground them up, and dissolved them in hot water. They realized this devil drink allowed them to stay awake during long hours of prayer without fatigue. It spread to the Arabian Peninsula, then to Europe, and eventually it fueled the Enlightenment. The biological reality? Caffeine is actually a natural pesticide produced by the plant to paralyze and kill insects that try to eat it. We're just so massy that instead of killing us, it just gives us the jitters. You are literally powering your workday with bug poison. Let's be honest. 99% of people would scroll past this video and think, oh, cool, cheese was a mistake, and move on with their day. But the fact that you watched this far, all the way to the extra credit, means your brain is wired differently. You're here because you know that brilliance often looks like a mistake until someone is smart enough to see the potential. If you want to be smarter than the person sitting next to you, hit that subscribe button. Then I want to see you prove your worth in the comments. Pick one accident from this list, whether it's the gunpowder that kills us or the coffee that wakes us up, and build a case for why it is the single most critical event in human history. The floor is yours. Class dismissed.